Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Robertson Stash. We have a very special guest on, the lovely Kyle Brooke Robertson.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, the mother of my children, my lovely wife, is on here today. And we are going to be discussing our journey to America.
Ooh.
I want to hear all about it.
Okay.
We've gotten the bits and pieces over the years, and it's time we set the record straight.
Yeah. Let's get started.
Let's do it.
Okay.
So let's dial it all the way back to when you guys met. We're going to start there.
Awesome. Well, we met in college. Matt and I did. We were in our first year of the glass blowing program. And in the first semester, you have to take 2 craft programs. So we both ended up in wood and glass, and we were in our wood class together. And then what else did we take together? I think sexual philosophy.
Possibly. Oh, really? I do remember that class, actually.
Okay. Wow.
So we were friends.
Sexual philosophy. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, that was the class that we were in. And then
we both aced that course.
Yeah, we all just ended up like Matt and I, and then the other people in our program ended up pretty tight. And we, the next year, became roommates in this house close to the studio with
Mm-hmm.
myself, Kristen, Carly, and then Matt. So,
Wow.
3 gals and 1 guy.
Yep. It was a party. It was a lot of fun. So we started dating, and then we just kind of connected on a lot of different levels and really became serial entrepreneurs right from the start. We only lived in that house for about a year, and in that year we started our first business together.
Yep, window paintings. We were doing little window paintings for companies and around the holidays and when they had specials and whatnot.
Yeah, we figured it out in the house. We started doing paintings on our back window, or on our back
sliding door
to the backyard. Figured out the paint techniques and stuff, and then went out and started getting gigs. And while we were in school, so we just immediately started working for ourselves, and we crushed it. We did some awesome window paintings, big ones.
Yeah, we did.
So how did you guys get from window painting to pipes?
That transition, well, I guess when we graduated school, we decided to move to Eugene together, and we thought we could pay the bills by making goblets and vases out there. But it was in 2008. It was a big recession kind of happening. So out of necessity, I kind of started working for pipe companies.
How did you get to Eugene?
What?
Did you have a green card or?
No, we graduated college, and we did the Toronto Outdoor Show, and we sold a bunch of our glass and kind of had some money. And I'm from the United States and Matt's Canadian. So at that point, you've been in school pretty much your whole life. And I was just I didn't want to settle down and just continue in Canada. And he wanted to venture out. So was thinking California. I went to go to Seattle, where there was a big soft glass scene. And we were just well, let's just go to Oregon. And we really didn't do any research into it or anything. We just kind of hopped in the car, drove to Colorado. We ended up getting a place in Oregon. And the girl who was our landlord, her name was Sativa.
And
the place was like an old grow.
Well, it was brand new because it was like an old grow. The whole apartment was converted to like a grow. So they had to repaint everything white and patch all the walls with all the holes in them. But yeah, so it was nice.
And he kind of says like, oh, we couldn't sell like our artwork when we got there. So I got into pipes. But in reality, you were into pipes like even before you got into college. Like you were making pipes for Adam Sandler. You were doing stuff in ceramics. And even when we were in school, you weren't really allowed to do pipes on the school campus. But I feel like it was something that you were always passionate about.
Yeah.
And you had the skill set to do it. Like the glass skill set. And it just was an easy transition
of pipes during school.
Yeah.
So I kind of took a hiatus from making pipes when we were in glass blowing college.
So you guys made a compromise and moved to Eugene, not Cali, not Seattle.
That's right.
Somewhere closer to Seattle than California. Mm-hmm. I got a really good friend of mine who lives in Eugene. Went to visit in February for the first time. So I kind of have a little bit of a feel for that town.
What'd you think?
It's pretty cool. It's dank.
Lots of feral cats.
It's lots of feral people too walking around. You have the occasional traffic stopper just kind of doing circles in the middle of the road until he or she decides to get out of the way. But it's a pretty cool little town, about an hour away from the beach. And that was
we went to Newport Beach a couple times, I think.
You see the sea lions?
Yeah, we went to the sea lion cave.
And the nightmarish roar from the cave.
Yeah.
The roar?
From the sea lion.
When you get out of the elevator into the cave, it's just like this crazy roar going on. And then you get to see them through the bars. You're like, oh, they're actually just trying to live, get on these rocks. The waves are just like brushing them up against all the...
Oh, I don't really remember that part, but...
Okay, I got a video.
Okay.
We did a lot of traveling when we were in Eugene. We kind of got there and like realized pretty quickly it wasn't the place for us. And like started traveling down to California to the Redwoods and going up to Seattle and kind of seeing like what our options were in that area. I started working for the Eugene Glass School for Saeed, who now runs Golden Gate Glass. And he also still has the Eugene Glass School, but it's changed locations since. And then Matt's like got right in with pipe makers. And I did another side gig for a gallery, for a Satva gallery. And then we went up to Portland for a friend's art gallery. Jeff Ballard, who's also a glass blower, opened a gallery in Portland. And we went up there and it was like, this is where I want to live.
Yeah.
Like if we're going to live in Oregon, I want to be here in Portland in the city. And then I got a job at Bullseye Art Glass that makes like all sheet glass.
Okay.
And we moved to Portland. And then Matt had been working out of Freeman Glass Studios, who had like a pipe making studio. And he had been learning so much. And so he started his own little studio space in a place called Shop People up in Portland.
That was cool.
And he was the only glass blower in that space, but there's just so many glass blowers out in Portland. So we kind of unknowingly moved to Eugene, not realizing that it was like the mecca for pipe makers at that time. And just kind of like, we just made a decision and followed that path there. And it ended up being really
good move.
Transformative in our careers and life.
Yeah.
Is that when you started making the pipes and Kyle started selling them?
Yeah. I mean, we had to, I'd make a case of pipes. I'd go into the store and they would kind of like talk me down, offer me half the price. And then Kyle would go in with the same case and she would come out with the 100% of the money. So I can't remember who told us, but it was like, man, like Matt's making all these great pipes, but like there's so many pipe makers here in Oregon, nobody's buying them. And somebody's just like, there's no girl pipe makers out here. He's like, I bet if like you went in there and tried to sell them, they'd buy them. And they did. So like I was like going to Bullseye Glass and working, and then he'd come pick me up from work and we'd take gun cases around and I'd run in and be like, this is what I've got. And they'd all put my name on the displays.
Wow.
Yeah.
We just hustle them like
I
that.
was just your driver for
for
a couple
about
years. Yeah.
not that long. We
maybe
were
like
in
a
Portland
year.
for maybe like 8 months.
Yeah. But it was still Kyle's Glass probably for a
Yeah.
little bit after that.
Gotta do what you gotta do to
That's
like,
right.
get started, you know? Make
That's
the
right.
sales.
Then what did we do after that? Oh yeah. And then someone like broke into my car and stole all of my equipment. And shortly after that, we decided to move back to Canada.
Yeah, we moved back to Canada because we weren't married. Like, there's no way for him to get a visa in the United States, and I had gone to college in Canada, so I had 5 years in Canada at that time, so I could go and easily like apply for my permanent residency. So we what did we do? I think we drove back to Canada or back to Colorado, and then you flew to Canada. And then I came and met you once you kind of got settled there and got us a place to live.
Oh yeah, in Dundas, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Matt's set up his flame working studio out of his dad's Goodyear garage shop.
Yeah.
Oh.
I
So that
applied.
was an interesting time.
Yeah.
I'd be blowing glass with all like customers waiting for their brakes to get done. And they'd ask me what I'm doing. I'm like, I'm making your custom headlights, dude. Like, see that little bulb in there? That's how they start right here.
Yeah. And then I got a residency at the Living Arts Center in Mississauga in the hot shop for blowing glass. And that kind of helped me like get my visa process started for coming back to Canada legitimately, which took a while. Actually, kind of like got an under the table job and just sat with that for a little bit and then finally
Is that
decided.
with Sylvie or?
No, with a waitressing. No, it was
okay.
cocktail.
That's right.
serving.
At Honey West.
Yeah.
Honey West.
Yeah.
Sounds
Yep.
like- is that a strip club?
Might as
Sounds
well
like-
been.
No, not even might as well. It was a nice restaurant, but then we cocktail served in the evening. It kind of turned into like
Like a nightclub.
a nightclub, but it was very like in a very like wealthy area, and I made really good money there. It was
Yeah,
top.
that was good.
I was the top
Earner.
So sales.
Those were good times.
So you're back in Canada.
Yeah.
Was the next move Colorado?
No, actually, we started a gallery, right? We
were working out
eventually
of the
started
Living
a
Arts
gallery,
Center.
Taught
And-
classes. I was teaching kids art classes and teaching flame working classes at the Living Arts Center. And then we found a spot and we started this gallery called Edy Roy, and we eventually expanded it and
Yeah.
had some big shows there.
Well, we found this like old rundown building right across from the Royal Botanical Gardens, like right up on
Beautiful.
Princess Point, in a beautiful like kind of understated area, but right in between like three nice cities: Hamilton, Burlington, and Dundas, and it's
And
like this
Waterdown too.
like meeting point right next to all the highways, easy to get to from Toronto. And like Matt really saw all of the potential in it. Like I looked at it and thought it was a dump, but it was this
I couldn't
big
envision it,
building,
yeah.
and it had two big like garage doors, and the one side he was redoing, and so Matt needed to get out of his dad's garage, so we just took over that side while he kind of cleaned up the other side. And we started a small gallery because that was like where my passion was. And then we had his flame working studio attached to it. And after we kind of got that running, we left the Living Arts Center and started that as our main business. And we started going down to the United States and participating in more events like the Michigan Glass Project and Glass Roots. And Matt was going to Amsterdam and meeting people at that time too. And he met Dizzle, right?
That's right.
Who
Yeah.
you invited back to our shop to teach a class.
And he was our first guy.
And we
there.
got like such an incredible response from the community of having, this American glass blower come up and teach these techniques that really weren't being taught in Ontario. Like it was mostly like a soft glass community there. So, I mean, people were just loving it. So we decided that we would do that again. And then after that, for about 2 years, we were bringing artists up every 3 months and hosting big shows. And we expanded into the larger space next door and brought another glass artist to move into our other space and like kind of created this whole like.
So it was a good time.
So
Have
then
big parties every 3 months.
Yeah, Matt's career started taking off in the States a lot. We were traveling down to the States, like participating in a lot of trade shows and whatnot. And then we shipped a lot of boxes of glass to a show down in San Diego from Canada.
right.
I had been shipping glass for years, like, you know, shipping internationally all over the world. And he did this big show, flew out there. And I remember Shayna, who used to run Jack's Gallery, called me up and said, I just picked up all the glass and these boxes are really light. I opened them up and there's nothing in them. And Matt and Jag were
I remember
out
that day.
and I called and like broke the news to him. The show was that night. So I had said, you know, before he left for San Diego, I checked the tracking and it said like through customs,
Cleared
customs, like due to arrive. And it did clear customs. But what they did is they took all of the glass out of the boxes, put every single piece of bubble wrap, packing material back in the boxes, and then sent the boxes on their way empty instead of saying like didn't clear customs.
Right.
Like
So it was a real mind.
So we flew me out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it
that
was a big, and then we called our friend who Matt had met in Amsterdam, who happens to be like a lawyer kind of within the weed industry. And he goes, well, you know, you guys have been flagged, like Matt should probably get out of the country. And so we like flew, I called him, I was like, you need to kind of like get back to Canada right away. Like, I don't know how serious this is. I've never dealt with anything like this, but they've just seized like $60,000 worth of glass artwork from us. And
My God.
so they we
I
flew up to BC.
Flew up to BC, that's right. Met up with Sam.
Our friend, yeah. Sam came and picked you up from the airport,
Yeah.
took you out for a drink.
You did drink at that point.
And then we flew you back to Toronto the next day, and it was like our whole world was shook, you know?
Shattered.
Yeah, we're like, can we continue doing this? Now every time we've been kind of flagged. Like, even though we shipped all the glass, like none of it's functional without buying another piece of like quartz crystal to make it functional. Like,
Right.
it's still, they were like, we ended up talking to the customs and talking to people, and they're like, no, the way you represent yourself online, like it's clearly for smoking marijuana. And unfortunately, like you cannot import paraphernalia into the United States.
So how did your
Tragic.
stomach feel through this whole process?
Turned upside down pretty much. Yeah. That was like an out-of-body experience pretty much.
Yeah. I can't imagine.
Flying to BC, then just flying to Toronto. But we got through it, and really it was a blessing in disguise because we kind of put the wheels in motion to move to America at that point.
Yeah, we
Is
were
that
renting.
right? You have such a good memory with our history. That's like,
We were renting our spot for the gallery and the studio at that point, and we were kind of like running out of steam for doing the shows. Like the artists were getting so big that they were like selling directly to everybody. And like when we started it, people were like, this is the most we've ever made in one night. Like, this is amazing. You know, look how many people are supporting. And it kind of blew up so quickly that the artists almost just didn't
also
need
like
the
other
shows
stores
anymore.
other stores that were just like shops were turning into galleries, and there was like this whole movement of having like these gallery shows. Really, we would do them every 3 months, but then they started happening every month, and then like 5 a week, and then
But we
kind of got
ended it.
saturated a little bit.
Yeah.
And still to this day, I mean, there's shows every week. So, but
We kind of got in on it at the beginning and then ended on a real high note. And the guy we were renting from, he was never going to sell us those buildings. And like he
Jerry.
was always doing like month to month rent. So we were like, he could pull the rug out from underneath.
do you remember
us
when
at
you
any
thought we
minute.
flushed a marble down the toilet? He's like, you guys clogged this toilet. You must have dropped a marble down there. Yeah.
And then the tree in the front yard fell out because it was like old ceramic.
Broken.
Like it was an old ceramic
pipe
that had like deteriorated, and everything was going into the yard, and they had a big storm, and the whole tree like fell over, and they realized that all the pipes had basically just turned into dirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a beautiful building.
So the tree just like flipped over.
I'm sure.
It was great. Those were good times.
Yeah. So then we actually had just gotten married, like right before this whole thing happened for San Diego.
On a whim. Not on a whim, but
like we were in Vegas and we had been engaged, and we were like, oh, what are we gonna do? We're doing these big like shows every 3 months. Now we're gonna plan a wedding. So we were in Vegas and we just got married.
Had a few of our friends come with us.
Okay.
So when this whole thing in San Diego happened, it was kind of great that we were married, because we were like, we got to move to America.
Yeah.
It's just like where most of our work was happening at that point. You know, we were kind of over bringing artists to Canada, and Matt's career was really taking off. So
yeah,
like my family's from Colorado. I wanted to start having kids. We wanted to invest in some properties. So we just like shut it all down, and we like got in our car and drove across the border.
But that time, I remember when we went across the border for the first time that we were going there.
It was a little nerve-wracking because we didn't have any visas. Like Matt didn't have a visa or anything, because you can either apply from outside of the states. You can apply for your visa, but it's actually quicker to apply when you're within the states. So we
just told them we're just going across the border, get some beer. We'll be right back tomorrow, spend the night.
Or we were like going to visit some family or
whatever
something.
story. We were like, we're not staying here forever, because they ask you questions at the border.
Yeah.
But I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of scary, because we were like really white knuckling it. We're like, no, we're fine. We're just
sold all our stuff.
We'll be right back.
Down. Like no big deal.
All this stuff. Don't worry about this stuff in the car. I think we had our cat with us too, didn't we?
Yeah, we had our cat with us. Everything.
Just going across for a couple days.
We took the longer way too, because we were like, let's go to the closest border. Yeah. In case we like, I can't imagine why we would turn away. We would go back and forth.
We did
all
cross
the time.
with like a dirty like vape pen in the car, because we
were nervous.
Yeah, we were so nervous. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is one of those instances where it's easier to ask for forgiveness in the States than it was to ask for permission from Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we got here and we just immediately like called our lawyer and like started the immigration process like right away. And it was a long process. Yeah, it was a lot of work.
Super glad to have you, man.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah.
So how many years of citizenship do you have now?
Citizenship? Oh, probably just like a year. Yeah.
That's raw.
Yeah. I think just about a year.
How many?
Because I was a permanent resident for
5 years.
5 years, yeah.
You have to be 5-year permanent resident before you can apply for your citizenship.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we had children here.
Okay.
And I got jealous of their American passports. So I had to get one myself. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
This has been great, though. This has been really great.
Yeah, let's go ahead and wrap this thing up.
Okay.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, honey, for coming and
Thanks for having me,
reminding me about how great we had it.
Is this your first podcast?
It's my first podcast.
You killed it.
Thank you.
You did.
Guys.
You really did.
Thank you. Well, I'm happy to be here. I have lots more that we can talk about with the business side if anyone has questions.
Yeah. And if you do have questions, just reach out to us through Instagram or the website, Robertson Glass Art. We got a little comment section on there. But just hit us up. When we start posting these, you can leave comments on the Instagram or Spotify. Anything else, guys?
I think that's it, man. It's been
All
a
right.
blast.
That was fun. Well, thank you, guys. I'm Matt.
I'm Sean.
I'm Kyle.
And this was another episode of the Robertson Stash.